Without getting too rambunctious about pivots or finding new directions, there's something inherently alluring to me to talk less about nostalgia and the things that were and how I survive in the now. I feel much better on a given day in my 50s than I did in my 30s, partially because from this vantage point, I've really found a rhythm in terms of what I need to do and what my relationship is to those things. With just one physical space to work from, the amount of advantages I've gained and the amount of accomplishment I'm doing absolutely outstrips everything I was doing back then, even though, in the aggregate, the goals were the same. Take pieces of history, take parts of interesting culture, and be the one who throws themselves into making sure that others can enjoy it. Let's quickly go through what I think I've learned and how I use it in my day-to-day working. And maybe somebody out there sitting with piles of to-dos or unwritten dreams can benefit. This is for you. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It, a podcast about technology, history, and getting myself out of debt. Thanks to Jeff Atwood and the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. I recently helped a friend work out the framework for a potential documentary project. Don't worry, I'm not back in the documentary business. But using my years of work with documentaries, I moved very quickly to go less from talking about what cameras or recording equipment you need to talking about the more important questions. What's the end goal? And even more importantly, what's the motivation for doing this? There's nothing wrong with doing it to make some money or to fulfill a requirement, but going into the project, fooling yourself as to your real motivations, that's the mistake. So we walked over how this could be done, and a spreadsheet was created with a list of potential interviewees, a second page with a sort of rough narrative of the entire project, and then finally a set of interviewing tips. Maybe I'll talk about interviewing tips at a later time. It's certainly a skill, and it's one that I've built up over the years. Getting back to the entire project, this sheet helped put everything into perspective after talking about the motivations. And then we let it sit. We let this piece of documentation sit by itself and then reconsider over the next few days whether or not it was even an idea worth doing. That, to me, is the fundamental, most important part of getting things done. If that sounds counterintuitive, it's really not. I think what it comes down to is intelligent, directed action towards a goal. Understand the goal, understand the steps and the time between you and the goal, and get cranking on it. Because going into different random directions and wool gathering and gathering random sticks that feel like they're in the theme of what you think you want is going to result in an artifact, to be sure, but its chances of ending up in something formalized and final and finished is not quite so great. In the realm that I'm currently in, I have come to terms with my place on the earth and what I like to do in terms of travel, in terms of living, working. Now, all of this could be shaken up in a second. One good disease, one good change of employment or friends or the location that I'm in, and it has to start over again. It has to become a variation of what I'm working on now. Assuming that I move forward with not many interruptions and not too many risks, the biggest modification of how I did things before was that I'm doing things in parallel. Many different channels of work being ingested in many different ways with modifications to what I'm focusing on over time. I can do a bunch of 20-minute or 1-hour videotapes, or I can pop on a 6-hour mega tape of television and let that digitize in the background while I get other things done. I have a floppy disk at the ready. I have video machines, both U-matic and VHS, and probably PAL and CCAM coming soon, and all of them are waiting because now I'm blessed with space. Before, I had youth and energy. Now, somewhat slowed down, I have space and the ability to formalize each of the channels. These channels of productivity, whether it's email, sorting things for work, moving around tapes, going through boxes, finding what I have, each one of them is a line of work that can stop and start over the course of time, but which, when I put them down, are put down in a way that they can be picked up again pretty quickly. In doing things this way, I'm not really letting myself be turned into a deadline-focused panic attack. What I'm focused on instead is moving each of the little pieces forward and forward again on the board. I've also let go of completions, of thinking that once I get through this pile or once I process this stack, I am done with this thing. Instead, I just think of it as what I've gotten done today, what I'm working with, and what problems may arise. In fact, and I'm sure many people share this, I have become much more attuned to how quickly we fall into time traps where you are processing 10 items, and one of the 10 items has a problem. Maybe not everybody thinks this way, but at this point in my life, I'm pretty much focused on the idea that it's better to get 9, put a note on the 10th that you had problems, and call the project done for now. Here's 90% of the goal, and a note to go after the 10%, either increased in expertise or where I have equipment I didn't have before, but moving on, putting a bow on it, being finished. I know this is what people do in other realms. I know people leave notes saying, here was the one step I couldn't complete. In one way, you're not getting things done, but in another, you are leaving a sort of gift for someone else to have the pleasure of finishing something because they brought in an amount of time or expertise or ability that brought it over the finish line. This is, to me, a partnership between me and the unknown future. Instead of being at odds with its inky blackness and uncertainty, I've learned to embrace it. And another thing, turning around and realizing how much you actually have gotten done, oh my goodness, how powerful that is. In 1 month, I digitized 200 videotapes in my new system. I was also processing hundreds of floppy disks, and I got other work done. The fact that these hundreds of hours of works are now in a digital form, and I was able to live a pretty normal life while doing it, that is magical to me. In between dinners and movies and seeing friends and going places, things got done. The dream I have of turning as much of my old life digital as possible, of turning as many donations digital as possible, is all-encompassing and inspiring for me. But it can also be a quagmire, a place where I look only at failure, what I haven't accomplished. That's not just unhealthy, that's destructive. That's living a life in the negative, in the space of failure and lack of accomplishment. Instead, I focus on what's been done And that monument I've helped build fills me with joy. Here I am in the present time, focused on what has been accomplished instead of what hasn't, focused on what is being a part of people's lives and not on what they don't have from me. For some people, all of this is very obvious, and I'm hoping that those people at least understand that not everybody else feels that way. A lot of people are struggling. They hide it sometimes, they put it behind smiles, but they are struggling. And while you don't always see the facade crack and learn what people are really feeling inside, sometimes a little bit of observation will tell you that offering help to somebody may be exactly what they need. At this point, in this area of wherever I'm journeying, it matters more to me to help somebody deal with a struggle than to struggle with what I think I should be doing. I'm not sure if this advice is for everyone, but somebody, somewhere, is hearing this. Maybe somebody sent it to you. Maybe you didn't even understand until now this was about you. Well, I have a room full of my memories, my childhood, my teenage and adult years, and a bunch of other donations from people and their lives. Instead of thinking of it as an oppressive to-do list and my passing hours not doing something with it as an inherent failure, I think of it as a home, and I am very comfortable and I'm very happy in this home. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It. Thanks to James Bekoyanu, Ernie Hershey, Michael Rubin, Dilip Reddy, Sean Kelly, Trixie the Cat, Martin, Sembiance, Joey Mink, Benjamin Guts, and Anonymous, along with the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. The piles you see are their own form of debt, and I suppose you can convince yourself that they're constantly gaining interest. But then I realized that many of these piles were sitting absolutely inert in someone's life. They're inert here, for now, but they are not a scream demanding my time and attention. They're a pleasant whisper reminding me that someone trusted me to do what needs to be done, and when I'm ready, I will.